I'm going to give you an illustration of a way that you can understand the situation you're in right now if you are a legal participant, surety for legal title. So we're gonna start with we're gonna look at the statement of birth record, but I'm just gonna say that the beginning is there is a club or a society with a ruler called Lord Mammon. And Lord Mammon, the supreme ruler of this club that he runs, membership of citizenship for his country and jurisdiction, he has to register all potential new members. So, in order to know who they are, even though he's dealing with someone who's an outsider who could be coming in, so just consider you're an outsider, you're foreign to him, and you want to become a member. So he would want a registration to enlist you in to find out. So let's just say that that's why the parents filled in the registration. And they wanted to know who individually was going to be involved. But at the same time, with this potential choice of one way or the other to either be a member or not, because the child may choose not to be a member. But for those that did choose to be a member in the Lord Mammon's jurisdiction, he basically tags everybody with a name that's assigned to them for the purposes of trade and commerce. So very easily, everybody's got a different trade name. So we have those with the name Smith. Maybe someone's going to be a tailor. On and on we go. And so all the members now have these little trade names. They have their individual name and then they have a trade name, which we now call a family name. Now, Lord Mammon has to track what's going on because he issues all the money from his jurisdiction. So he wants to know what you're going to be doing with it, but at the same time, you're going to be doing business with many people, even possibly other countries that he's in trade relationships with. So he basically has to be concerned with what you're going to do with his title that's involved with the money. So his Mammon title that he's placed on you by assignment is basically going to require to cover the risk of what you will do with his title when you're out there. What are you doing with his money? So he issues a government bond. We'll call it the Mammon bond of Lord Mammon. So he bonds you. And that's why this was never intended for personal identification. It's a government bond that he issues. But he needs you to surety your activity with it. So he basically has you enter into a registry program with a unique number to basically ID you or identify you as a holder in due course of his bond. So he puts you into a registered debtor program to him called SIN. And he gives you a nice SIN number because many people could have the same last trade name as you're using. And so he gives you a unique identifier along with the birth date that you would be known of different than anybody else. So your unique number that no one else has, so that he can basically track you and find out what you're doing out there and collect the money that is required at the end of the year for what he deems to be the rules of the game. Now, when people go down a direction that this is all corrupt and evil, I say, well, how would you run such a corrupt and evil game with all these people that want to use something that doesn't belong to them, that is not theirs? And so he wants that individual, or demands his common share to be paid for his common use of a common trade name for the purposes of commercial activity and trafficking. And so that's why This leads to the derivative, a driver's license, and therefore he would like a picture of you, and he would like your signature to know who's actually moving around as surety for this bond. And therefore, that's why all the restrictions, or what you call burdens, that you're carrying work this way. But remember, it's not your money. You didn't issue it. This didn't come out of your basement. This certainly wasn't filled out, or it didn't come from you. And therefore, this can either work for you or against you. But this document is the bonding document. And when you become surety for that, the legal system has every right to track what you're doing with the public treasury money. And therefore, if you're using it in a private manner, he says, that's fine. I'll let you take some of that public trust into your own private life, but there's going to be certain rules for the use of taking it out of that public coffer. And so you're going to have to pay tax on what you use for your common share of that. And therefore, that's how it would be, and that's the only way it could possibly work, that I could see under a system that operates in this manner. So it does not floor me that this is the schematic of how it operates, but it did induce an innocent child to walk into the legal because it required their private property to enter in it that was paid by Jesus Christ. So therefore, there is remedy, but you have to understand what you're doing in there to comprehend where you're going to go. And that's why we've taken so much time in these videos to try to explain things very simply. So you're nothing more than carrying around bonded property of the state, and they needed to know who was going to be surety for it. And so you took them off the bond, you became a guarantor or a surety, and the state is only a co-surety in this matter. They're ultimately responsible, but as long as you're moving this and suretying it, it will not stop. So the only thing you can do is pull out what is yours. You cannot basically surrender what isn't yours.